the world I come from, right? Like I understand commercial high-rise hospitals. In fact, the CAMH, I was actually part of the team that contributed to the construction of that as well.
Nice.
Right? So I was exposed to a lot of the documentation, the closeouts. Like a lot of people don't know this, but like some of those major projects, especially in commercial, you could actually reach or come to the point of occupancy. So the building is substantially completed. It could be used for what it was designed to be used for. It could be occupied, but it's not closed out, right? The close out process can take years in closing out from a commercial standpoint, right?
Yeah.
It can take years. And in fact, the team, like the company I worked with at that time, they actually had a close out team.
Oh, yeah.
It's a whole team that all they did was point out, so basically punch list, right? A lot of punch list upon punch list upon punch list, and then commissioning all the equipment within the hospital, commissioning. And
a lot of paperwork.
There's a lot, stacks and stacks.
Yeah.
Because there's so much other people that need to sign off CSA standards, this standards, that standards, this equipment, call in the supplier. They come and check the equipment to water test, like all these different things is what has to be done on those bigger projects, right?
Yeah.
So it really does add to the timeline. But on this project here, building a team for your project is very important. And in some cases, you may need a closeout team, an architect, depending if it's exterior work, a landscape architect, your engineers, meaning your plumbing, your structural, your HVAC, and so forth. Yeah. On this particular project, this was an existing building this client purchased, and they wanted to actually add a clinic to it. So there's also a lot of standards with regards to that. There's CSA standards, specifically like really smart people, right?
Yeah.
Really smart people sat down and thought of all of the different things that need to be considered when you're putting in a clinic. Airflow and, radiation standards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So all these things have to be done to meet CSA standards, but it also have to comply with building code and has to comply with all of the other aspects. So that process that I just described, that legal non-conforming, is actually we have to go through the process of applying for an extension of use. Extension of use for that use. So this is the use. We want to extend that use now into the future. That's an actual process. So you may have heard of the Committee of Adjustment. Going to the Committee of Adjustment, most people talk about Committee of Adjustment when they're asking for a variation from a specific provision in a bylaw, right? Whether it be they want to reduce the front yard setback, rear yard, landscape area, or so forth. In this case, we were asking, you have to go to the Committee of Adjustment as well for this extension of use. So just to kind of talk a little bit about that, the Committee of Adjustment, right? That's where you go to, most people know a minor variance. You go to get a minor variance from the current provisions of the bylaw. And then there's also severance. It's actually called a consent, right? So you see, like, it's called a consent. So you're going to apply for a consent. So that's when you're planning to actually sever. You purchase a piece of land, you want to sever it. Most people say severance, but the city understand that as a consent, right? To kind of like to convey a parcel of land and so forth. And then there's also, you go there as well for an extension of use. So Committee of Adjustment also deals with an extension of use. So we have to go, so you have to allocate time. So why I want to say that is the Committee of Adjustment process usually involves sending in an application, a completed application, going back and forth with them. They say, okay, we got all the information, we need to consider it. Then they circulate that information internally through a mirror, like there's a ton load of different departments. And then once they have actually circulated that internally, they will send back some comments to you, maybe whatever their thoughts are, whether they object to it or not. But then they also now send out letters to people within 60-meter radius of the property that is requesting a variance or something like that. So it's a public, and then they schedule a public hearing for you now to come and say what it is you want to do. In this case, is nothing evasive. I don't think we'll have any objections from the neighbors because it's a clinic. There's different type of clinics within the building, and it has a residential component. It's been like that for the last, I think we discovered it was like that for the last 30 years or something like that, right? So we aren't changing anything. All we're doing is going in and asking them to extend this use now further into the future. Why we had to do that? I really don't know. I don't know why exactly. Like, I wish I had I'm trying to tell them, like, we don't need to do this.
Yeah.
Because the building we're not changing the use or anything. But I think it's because we're applying for a permit to make modifications to the interior. So, by the way, that is still up in the air. But let me step back here. So, we have to go to the committee of adjustment. That's a 3-month process in itself. So you have to, after it's circulated, that can take about a month and a half. Then you have your hearing date out in the future. Maybe so between you submitting a committee of adjustment application, in this case for an extension of use, to you getting the hearing and they listen to your case, that can take about 2 months, maybe even 3 months in some cases. Then there's a 20-day appeal period for other people to come in and say, like, no, we disagree, and so forth.
And where do they go? Just in case people don't know, where do they go to appeal that?
Yes, so they would appeal to. So there's different appeal. Yeah, the hearing. You could appeal the hearing, so you have to they'll leave it open for appeals. People would appeal it to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Right, so I don't know if they would do that in this case, but I think all appeals would go to the Ontario Land Tribunal. And I want to say there's a lot of nuances there, lots of provincial bills and so forth recently, between in the last 3 years. So Bill 23, Bill 185, Bill 17, and all of these bills kind of adjust how people can actually, like how they can appeal, what they can appeal, and who can appeal. There's a lot of nuances there, so maybe no one can appeal. I don't know the full extent of that. But with that said, there is an appeal period where you could appeal, and typically in the past we have had committee of adjustment decisions, so they would either grant it or they would decline it. And if they decline it, you as the applicant could appeal that decline to the Ontario Land Tribunal, and likewise, if they grant it, someone outside, external to you, can appeal it to basically have them reverse it, and then you have to take it to the...
And I'm sure they tell you exactly what reason they didn't prove it.
Oh no, they tell you exactly, they'll tell you all of the details.
So you can just modify something and then...
Well, once it goes to the Ontario Land... No, so once the decision is made by the Committee of Adjustment, whether it be in favor or not in favor, once that decision is made and an appeal has been registered against that decision, it goes to the Ontario Land Tribunal, or in Toronto, it goes to the TLAB, right? Toronto Land Appeal Board, I think it's called, for them to go through the appeal process. That process is a very litigious type of process. Like it's a lawyer. You have to get a lawyer to represent you, right? Wow. In that process. So, you don't really want that, right? So
that's when things start to escalate a little bit more and all that, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's when things escalate, but not really. It's not really escalated. It's just like me as a designer, I would not take that process forward for the client. I would tell them they need to hire a lawyer, a qualified lawyer who understands that process. I could be their expert representative and to explain why it is what's happening and so forth. But again, the decision that comes out from that appeal process, that is final. Yeah. There's no going back on the second appeal and third appeal like a year of that, right? Yeah. So then after, once we have done that, so that's let's just say in the best case, that's a 2.5 month, 3 month process. And then you also have what would be now the permitting process, which is another, as I just mentioned, 3 to 4 months. So you can see how you're in this process for about 6 months. Yeah. So this is why I would always, and this is where our advisory really comes in, is like this, looking at a property in advance. And we spoke with the client about the odds of all of this happening, by the way, from the onset. So they were mentally prepared that this can take long, right? To actually get them to the point of permitting and get the business, because this is a business he's setting up, operational, right? So, every dollar counts and so forth. The good thing with this is that this is a mixed-use asset, so he has revenue coming in on the property already.
Yeah, perfect.
And when construction time comes, he's going to decommission some of the other areas, and he's going to build his unit in there, where he's still going to maintain some cash flow from the other aspects of the buildings.
Is he operating already somewhere else, at least?
Yeah, so that's right. So in a different city, though.